Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
All right, so yeah, we might have lost our Mayor's Cup, but it doesn't matter because our education is way better. Respectfully, it's okay. The numbers say we're top 6,000 in the nation while they're top 10,000. We're top 800 in California while they're top 1,166. And our students have a really high rate of dual enrollment, and our school has been ranked top 20% in California for the most diversity. But other than that, on Friday, October 18, 2024, River Valley Varsity Boys Football Team won their game against Burberry Bank High School by a score of 33-16. On Thursday, October 17, 2024, the River Valley Varsity Girls Flag Football Team won their game against Roseville by a score of 22-8. On Thursday, October 15, 2024, the River Valley Freshman Girls Volleyball Team won their match against Yuba City High School by a score of 2-1. And we have our senior volleyball night is today, and also tennis. We will have our fall festival on October 31st, and over 20 clubs are helping, and our campus has more than 20 clubs, which I think is way more than YC, but we are also having cool activities like a costume contest, which is going to be really fun to watch. Like last year, we're going to have 7 different categories, which students can win in, like the scariest, the most educational, and stuff like that. We will also be having pumpkin decorating that week, including teachers versus students. Our ASB had a meeting with YC today and talked about fall into leadership which is going to be on November 7th. And the 8 topics we're going to be is executive council, school spirit, what's your legacy, staff and student appreciation, publicity, community building, rally, and social events, which went well, the meeting. Our students have also been participating a lot and wearing pink on Wednesday, which is amazing to see. And this Friday, we'll be having our college and career expo. Our school has been amazing, and midterms also went well overall. And I feel like students actually like to take the midterms this year, and we all got a fresh start. That's it for today. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board and audience. Mr. Hyde, I hope you're having a great day. To start off, we can finally put a rest to the beat. We came out on top in Mayor's Cup as per usual, but we like to be humble about it. Our JV had 52-0 at Mayor's Cup, and our varsity had 27-6. But RB did play a good first quarter. And our Del Campo game, JV had 45-6, and varsity had 18-12. Our volleyball, Del Campo also lost. It was 3-0, and River Valley also lost. It was 3-1. And then we had a Mayor's Cup rally and an outdoor HOCO rally. The games were really good. We had a lot of student involvement. We picked kind of like popular games that people would like to play, which is really good. And then our outdoor rally, so we walked around the campus to get everyone who was wearing gold and brown out to our rally. And we played a long Rochambeau game, which is very fun. And then we all wore brown and gold so that we could take an aerial photo from the top. So it was super cool. And then this Saturday was our homecoming. Our theme was City of Stars. It was kind of like La La Land. And then some students said the DJ was good and the food trucks were good. And then the week before HOCO, we had activities leading up to HOCO, a pancake breakfast and face painting, which is super fun. And then we also had a spirit week, which a lot of people dressed up, and it was really good this time. And then a few things that are coming up this week and the next few weeks. We have food fair this Friday. A lot of clubs have actually decided to participate this time, so I'm hoping it will go good. And then, like Ramajit said, November 7th, we have Fall into Leadership. We met with RB ASB today discussing on what our teams are gonna do and what time we're gonna do stuff, and that went really well. And then some things our school has been trying to work on is like online fundraisers, because we were trying to see if we could do that. Because like honestly, it's easier to like fundraise online. Like people don't like coming to fundraisers sometimes. So if we could do online fundraisers, then everybody can just participate in their homes as well. And then I did talk about college tours earlier. We didn't hear back from that. So I don't know if we're still doing college tours for like Avid and all that stuff. But that's it for today.
Thank you. Please, staff recognition.
Thank you. So Director Pogue is here to introduce our school and our thing that we want to recognize today.
Good evening, board, staff, and audience members. Good to see you all. Small but special group tonight. Appreciate the healthy rivalry between the two high schools and the smile on your face as you dish it out a little bit. So that's good. It's really good. So tonight we're here to recognize an exceptional district staff person who helps shape our culture of excellence in Yuba City Unified. And we know by recognizing our employees, it helps lift everybody up all around them, especially the employee who likes to have a good job well done sometimes. So in recognizing our employee tonight, it helps us fulfill our mission statement as a district, which is preparing the foundation for each student to build tomorrow's world, which is what our staff member is doing every day. And her principal, Eric Jenkins, will present on her behalf and explain more about why we're recognizing this person. Come on.
So we want to recognize Laura Lee Redfield. She's an amazing educator. I met Laura Lee a long time ago when we were colleagues. I was teaching at Riverbend and she came in and we were all curious about this teacher who came from the prison system. and she did. She taught in the prison system. And you know what? You see Laura Lee and you're like, wow. I would never expect that ever, but she's a strong, strong person. So just a couple of notes. Laura Lee has been the anchor in our fourth grade team for many, many years. It can sometimes be hard to keep fourth grade together because everyone's trying to get those second and third grade positions, but she's held strong and gone through many, many other colleagues and trained them in their education journey. Her and I are early morning people. I get to the office pretty early, and then she comes in, and we have had so many wonderful conversations in that morning. I got to learn about her family, her husband, and her daughter. We were able to kind of see, the trajectory her family's going and talk about our lives. I learned about her amazing work ethic and dedication. She is so dedicated to our kids. She'll do anything for them. She also shows she's a constant learner. Laura Lee goes to every PD possible. And Laura Lee's not a new teacher. She is going strong and learning new things every day. She always volunteers for those opportunities and wants to make her practice the best it can be. She collaborates with her colleagues like no one else I know. She wants to get their opinion. She wants to improve the team and not just her own classroom. I've had many families and students relate to me that they appreciate the education they got in her class. Recently, she really helped us out and took a kindergarten position. For many, many weeks and weekends, Laura Lee was at our school preparing her classroom, getting everything ready. We got to turn the alarms off and get down to business. Her husband came. There was a lot of moving and changing things around in a job she didn't have to take, but she knew that they needed a strong teacher. Anyway, want to recognize Laura Lee, one of our most amazing teachers.
Maybe I'll get two of you. Just scoot a little bit this way, out of the way of the podium. Just a little this direction.
This way.
Thank you. Does your husband want to come up and take a picture too?
Sure.
I guess I've seen that quite. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
All right, so reports and information, 11A, public hearing for proposal of new ethnic studies course. Go ahead and open the public hearing.
So we bring forth the Educational Services Department a new ethnic studies course. It was actually kind of awesome to hear our student representative here talk about River Valley being 20%, top 20% diversity. It was kind of ties into that whole topic. So Assembly Bill 101 requires that all local education agencies begin offering an ethnic studies course by 25-26. And the graduation requirement will be for the the cohort of the 29-30 school year. The ethnic studies course celebrates and explores the different groups within and outside of the community. Of course, provides an opportunity for students to not only learn about other groups of people, touching back to the diversity in our community and our schools, but to understand how these groups intersect to form unity, community, and pride. Provides an opportunity for students to explore their own self-identity in relation to their own and collective histories. The course aims to encourage cultural understanding of how different groups have struggled and work together, highlighting core ethnic studies concepts such as equality, justice, race, ethnicity, and this word I've always struggled with, and I keep trying to get it right, indigeneity. So it's like indigenous. I got it right that time, practiced. So this is just a public hearing to open up for any questions. And it would become a action item at our next board meeting.
I have a question really quick. So it's not required of graduates until 29-30,
So the class of 26-27 will be the first class that will be required.
but we're gonna start offering it next fall.
As an elective, it will be a pilot elective year.
A pilot elective, that was my question. So students can opt in or not the first year, but then after that, it'll be a required course?
It won't be required until the 26-27 freshman course. It'll be required their junior or senior year. It's an upper advanced course for juniors and seniors.
And they can take it either their junior or their senior year? Okay, so I don't understand why giving them that choice, whether it's a junior or a senior. Okay, that's one. And then
So part of that was the discussion with the teachers in both the schools, giving them the option, then you won't have to be really forced to take two social science courses the same year on junior year. So it does fall within the social science department. So you would get an option to take it senior year as well. And we do have a number of students who take off periods senior year. So they have room to take it. So they could take it junior or senior year.
okay, well, junior year is typically American history.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
And senior year is required by Edward to be a semester of government or civics, whatever we call it, and economics.
Yeah.
So those two. So this is in addition to those, and that's fine. My question is, number one, we don't have that as a requirement. I think the graduation committee will need to meet to make it a graduation requirement. If we're gonna change graduation requirements.
So this is actually or has already gone in policies, so you adopted when you adopted policies when these first came out that the ethics studies course would be added as a graduation requirement for this graduating class of 29-30. So it's already in policy.
Okay, so we don't have.
No, because it wouldn't go before graduation committee for approval because of the fact that it's a required mandated course as defined in law.
Okay. And then my second thing is, I just want to give because I've done a little bit of research on who's been doing this, and I know that Katie Woolman out there has been working on it for a couple of years.
Brett.
And who else?
Brett.
Oh, I don't know Brett. Hi. I know Katie. But I know that 3 teachers from each of the 2 comprehensive high schools have worked on this for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And I know several of the teachers who've worked on it, not all of them. I know several of the teachers who's worked on it, and I want to commend you for putting in that much time and effort into making a course for our students.
It was a really collaborative effort with our teachers because it's a new course. And it was just an awesome time facilitating that with our teachers.
Well, Katie is a national board certified teacher. I absolutely think that she has all the knowledge necessary to help work on this course.
So I think I'll limit my comments to Unit 7. So with regards to the this is the framework, right? So everything in here is a must teach.
So so the must teaches, they have so like the 4 foundational disciplines, I'll kind of just read from the frameworks. The traditional ethnic studies course was first established in California higher ed. This is where ethnic studies came from higher education. And you do have to focus on the foundational disciplines of African American, Chicano, Chicano-X, Latino, Latino-X, Native American, Asian American, Pacific Islander studies. So that's definitely a theme that has to be in the course. That's part of the frameworks. The CDE within their implementation, they leave it up to provide local educational agencies collaboration and developing the course. So I went to this one. I think both of you guys were there at Yuba-Sutter High School. We had a student study group. We had a cohort of freshmen to seniors. And I just asked them. I talked about what ethnic studies was. And I asked them. I said, based on you guys are high schoolers that will be taking this course, what would you want to see represented in this course? So part of Unit 7 was kind of from that feedback from the students.
Oh, okay, so they're deciding what they want to learn.
Yeah, so we talked to them, and then our teachers, our social science teachers who teach U.S. history, world studies, they teach the course that Shelley was mentioning, GovEcon. Talking to the kids, they decided as a group, we could also include other groups that aren't part of the 4 themes or major groups. So that would be
Women, LGBTQ Americans, discrimination against Muslims, anti-Semitism, is that in the objectives? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Unit 7. So the focus of that was basically other marginalized groups that are representative that we see at work in our culture.
And how do you define marginalized?
Groups who have had experienced prejudice, discrimination.
But everyone has. I mean, we go back to any of our histories, we have all belonged to either a perpetrating or a victim. It's a common story in the world. I think my issues with Unit 7 in particular is that this is called ethnic studies. Now you've brought in things that are not ethnicity, and ethnicity in and of itself is highly nuanced, especially in the global world that we live in today. But nonetheless, it's law. So there you go. But Unit 7, now you're bringing in things that aren't ethnics, right? That's so sexual identity is not an ethnicity. Female, male, gender is not an ethnicity. And so I see Jewish, that would be an ethnicity because it's not just a religion, it's also, as you know, an ethnicity. I see Arab Americans and I see European, Ireland, Italy, Eastern Europe. I see that's all kind of like lumped in. So you have your 4 main categories that the law says you have to focus on. Am I right?
Yeah, and within, yes, you're right about that.
And then there's the intersectionality, right?
And that would be the piece I think that would touch upon those groups. So overlapping identities of race, and we have, based on the framework, they talk about overlapping intersections of, you could be Jewish, you could be African American. There's intersection of race and there's
It's
intersectionality.
nuance. Well,
Yeah.
those are two ethnicities that you just mentioned. But gender is not an ethnicity, sexual orientation is not an ethnicity. And so if the goal is to do an ethnic course where it's like, this is the history, this is how this culture came to be, or this is their, again, ethnicity, highly nuanced. However, that's that. But then now you're getting into, now it feels like, well, let's just, talk about everybody who has been a victim or could have possibly been a victim. And I feel like it's off course of the.
I would agree with you, however, the fact that this came from talking to students and talking to the teachers who are in the classrooms, if the LGBTQ plus community is marginalized, and I think this course its main purpose is to make sure people understand how our differences actually make us stronger than tear us apart. And I think that if that's a part of the community that is marginalized, I think that having just one small unit touch on it, I don't see a problem with that. I know that by the time you get to a unit 7, the year will be getting short anyway, usually. So I don't think it'll be a very large unit on that. But I do think that when you said the word culture, I think there is a specific culture around students who identify different than how they were born. And that transcends ethnicities, true, so ethnic studies. However, I do think it's a marginalized population that if we understand it a little bit better, they will cease to be as marginalized as they currently are.
So you're saying people identify as a different ethnicity than what they were born as?
I think it's a culture as well as an ethnic. I don't think, it's not ethnic, but it is a culture.
Right, but this is an ethnicity course, and we also do we not in our and I could be totally wrong, please correct me, I know you will, but we also are by law required to have units on the contributions and struggles of the LGBTQ community within our history framework in high school, correct? There's like a whole.
There's a part of it, yes.
Right. So it's not like this is it.
Right.
I mean, it is, the concern I have here, the overarching concern is that I, like you, find there's more that unites us than divides us. And oftentimes, and it seems the focus is, well, what marginalized class do you belong to, or don't belong to, or and there's these cultural groups, even clubs. We even have multicultural clubs within our schools, and that's great to study the history and to study the culture, and that's great. However, it seems like by finding, for example, I'm a woman, so I guess I belong to a marginalized class, apparently. But there's nothing that, today, there's really nothing that any man is allowed to do that I'm not allowed to do. I mean, there's so we're focusing on maybe history, that's a history thing, and it's not an ethnicity. And I am super eloquent, and I know I'm making total sense. I just don't like the divisiveness, and especially when now it's veering from the original path, which is to study the contributions of cultures to who we are as Americans, right? Because e pluribus unum, out of many, but it's one. It's not out of one comes all these many little groups. It's out of a whole bunch of different backgrounds, a whole bunch of different groups. What do we have that is that we share?
So can I ask you, like,
Yeah.
based on your thoughts and your opinions, what would you like to see different?
Well, I'd like it to stick to ethnicity.
So you would like it if chapter 7 or unit 7 was removed?
Not all of it, because you have your European Americans, which we were talking about, the Transcontinental Railroad, right? The Transcontinental Railroad and the contributions and how Irish Americans and Chinese Americans were used to do that. And then you also have your European, your Irish immigrants, you have all of that. But it's those things that are off course, like gender, sexual identity. That's not an ethnicity.
I
So
want to see more alignment, essentially.
it's just the alignment to the intent of the course, which is to.
So they did, just so you know, like we, as a committee, we researched. So in the course, the CDE submission, they have like 6 chapters. I think it's chapter 5 or 6. They basically do a sampling of all the A to G submitted approved courses in California. So this course is taught in probably 60% or 70% of high schools already. And so we did like a really significant dive into those courses we're currently offering at other high schools. And that and they allow local agency flexibility based on feedback. And so one of the biggest groups we wanted to talk to was our teachers, but also our kids. These are kids are getting they're experiencing the class. And so because of they allow the local agency flexibility in developing this course. And as a committee, we really talked about this a lot, actually, about this unit, because some of the feedback was what you said was, we want to make sure we're trying to be. You can't be fully inclusive of every group because the core of the course are those 4 main groups.
Right.
But in terms of the themes, like intersectionality is one of them, indigeneity, power structures, colonialism, like all these themes, they do touch upon groups of people that have traditionally been on the sidelines in society. And I would even say women have been historically on the sidelines, in some cases, not all the cases. And it's taken steps through civil rights, it's taken steps through
See, but that's a history course. Susan B. Anthony, right? And we've got all of that. That's history, and that's the civil rights course, right? But by including it here, it's not correct to build that into an ethnicity course when gender is not an ethnicity, when sex is not an ethnicity, and you study the history. Okay, yes, we didn't have the right to vote, but guess who changed that? American men and women. And that is the story now, right? And maybe we didn't have access to jobs, but guess who changed it? American men and women who stood up for what was right.
But
So
within some cultures, that's not true.
well,
Even-
okay, but
even in the
are we
United
studying
States.
this culture? I mean, isn't the purpose of this ethnicity course is to study the cultures within our own country, right? Because otherwise, then we're just.
Within our own country.
But then otherwise, this is just world history, right?
the basic core of the tech of the courses there are 4 main ethnicities, and based on what the CDE says, traditionally they've been maybe not as represented in our education than other groups might have been. And I think that's kind of the genesis of why this course was developed, probably from the higher education, it comes from higher education, why the state wanted to include it in the high schools.
Because we're not teaching history we can't go back because this isn't the state legislature. So they've already passed it. Thank you, Sacramento. But again, this member's vote is that Unit 7 be redefined and re-engaged to be the ethnicity and the focus be on perhaps true that yes, the history, again, this is where the history, talk about intersectionality, this is where history and modern day, right, are at odds because yes, that was the history. And we go back in any of our cultures, way back history, and we will find, just as I said before, that we were both a perpetrator of violence and a receptor of that violence. We all have that in it's a common human story in the world. And so I think that when that's focused on, you see that is a commonality among all of us as humans. So, but when you start talking about like marginalized, as far as like, that's not ethnicity. That and again, I would also argue that could be perception, right? I may feel like as a female, I'm not invited into certain circles. I may also not be invited into certain circles because I'm super annoying. And like it has nothing to do with my femaleness. So what I don't want is to, and I'm sure, like I just want to say this, the excellent teachers and the excellent committee that is putting this together does not have the heart that says they want to divide or they want to class people and tell them you're a victim and you'll always be a victim and you'll never be represented, because we have a glorious history of doing, of bleeding to eliminate to eliminate slavery, of causing women, of giving women the right to vote, to earn all of that. We had that's in our DNA as Americans, and so that's what we do. So I just don't want to see a new generation come up and not appreciate that, where we're talking about those nuances that are not ethnic studies.
So it's a public hearing, so I think this is the input that is
This is my
behind the
input.
public hearing from all board members and also anyone in the audience who might want to speak to the topic regarding the course as it's being presented. It will come back for action at the next board meeting, at which time the full board will need to give direction regarding whether or not you're wanting to adopt as presented or if any refinements might need to be made based upon comments made at the public hearing. Sure.
And I don't necessarily think that all of Unit 7 is, not ethnic studies, because I mean, Unit 2 is identity, race, and ethnicity. And that is how some people identify, and I think it's important that we still teach students that, yes, these are marginalized groups, and this is how they've been marginalized, and we should put past it so we don't repeat it. I mean, ethnicity is about appreciating our differences and being stronger together, and it's a part of a difference, it's part of life, like it's how people identify. So I don't think it entirely is all like just ethnic studies. I think it's important to know what identity is and how that influences us as well. But I do think it's a little, in my opinion, just like reading through this, it could be a little bit more defined and detailed. Like looking back into high school and just seeing how advanced the curriculum was for juniors and seniors, I feel like it could be a little bit more detailed. This is basic, and I appreciate the effort and time that it took all the teachers to go through and develop this, and I know it cannot have been easy. But I think there's a little bit more that we could go into detail with this to teach our juniors and seniors.
So you're talking about detail or rigor?
Like rigor, thank you. It could be a little bit more rigorous.
I think that would come as the,
I think this is just a framework.
Yeah,
This isn't
this
the
is-
actual instruction.
Yeah. I understand that, but yeah, I feel like it could be a little bit more. We could go further into this.
Any other comments? Comments from public?
I have a comment.
Do you wanna come to?
Come on in.
Oh, podium. Just state your name, please.
My name is Joseph. I'm a cook transport at Berry School.
Okay.
Berry School is a very involved school. My name is Jody. I think this would be a great course for high school students. I think more like looking into it all. But I think it would be a good for like even various school students transitioning to the high school. I mean, that wasn't involved when I was in high school. I graduated in 2011. I transferred to Albert Powell. I think it would give it a good opportunity to have it in the course. I think the identity thing, I mean, change happens. I mean, I don't know how it goes into effect. I don't know if you're able to remove the class if it doesn't succeed. I don't know much about that, but I think it would be a good opportunity to offer to students just for, it's a change thing. The world changes every day. I mean, I see students that have different identities, learn about their history. You know, it makes people don't look at people differently. So, so I mean, that's just my point of view.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. All right. B, California assessment of performance and progress. Past trustee. Oh, wait. Maybe I should be in charge of the program.
Fine. Okay, gotcha. Hey, good evening, school board, staff, audience. So we just had the public release of the cast of we have our English, ELA, and science scores. The dashboard, which has all the great colors and charts and percentages, that actually is released on December 1st of this year. So they're actually doing a goal of releasing it earlier up until 2026. So it'll be released October 15th, which is really good for planning for our LCAP because you get the data earlier. It's kind of challenging sometimes to get the dashboard. And the dashboard includes our suspension data, our school and climate data. It includes our A to G and our graduation rate. So that'll be coming on December 1st, the public release of that. So this first slide, I know there's a lot of pages, so I'm definitely not going to be 45 minutes. But I thought this was important. This is comparable districts. So Yuba City Unified, Marysville, and Los Banos is in Merced County. So these are three districts that are TK-12, about 11,500 students, similar demographics, similar frame response, about 70 to 80%, similar SPED and similar EL population. So just looking at comparable districts in California, you can see we are still doing a little better than the other districts, which is a little proud moment there. That's ELA. And math, the same. Math is still a challenge statewide and nationwide. And if you look at our scores just in ELA versus math, you can see the difference still. So that's still something we're working on. It's still a statewide issue with math. That's something just, looking at our other districts that are comparable, we're still.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, this is just, English teacher here. Common Core and IM, the integrated math. Okay, were our math scores better prior to going to Common Core and IM?
It's different. It's a different metric because you have the STAR tests. And the STAR tests were measured just on algebra, geometry, and algebra 2.
It just doesn't seem like our students struggled as much with math prior to this huge change to Common Core.
I would have to look. I could find that out for you. I'd have to go check out pre-Common Core and look at like a 3-year time span to see what the difference was.
I feel like I did. I feel like I did. Because we started Common Core when I was in 6th grade. I hated every minute of it. Because nobody knew how to teach it.
It was definitely a big shift
Yeah.
in instruction delivery and the way the curriculum.
But is that even something we can change? Isn't that the state standard now?
No, they have the state standards, they have the math frameworks, which just got adjusted, and they're coming out with new pilot adoptions next year with textbooks. School districts do get to decide how they navigate whether they want to do the integrated track or the traditional track, which is algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. And I think on both sides there's advantages and maybe disadvantages to both sides of it. This is just a comparison this is California. I wanted to show ELA and math for California. And as you can see, we are lagging behind the state. We do want to ideally be at that level or above that level. That's with ELA. And then with math, you can still see we're trailing the state of California in math. And this is, as you can see, the down below, blue is awesome, is exceeded. Green is met, and then nearly met is yellow, and then not met is orange. 3-year data, this is for Yuba City Unified School District, and this is met or exceeded. So these students either met or exceeded standards. We have our math, our ELA, and our science. Our science is called the CAST, C-A-S-T, California Science Test. 5th graders, 8th graders, and juniors or seniors take the CAST test. With the CAST, you have 3rd through 11th grade take the CAST test. So math, English, 3rd through 11th, science, 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th or 12th grade.
But not in 9th and 10th.
No. And you can see just the general theme before we get to the end of this, the general theme is we are, by looking at the data, the last 3 years, we're exceeding, I would believe, just looking at, we're exceeding an ELA right now. We're doing really well in ELA. And we have programs we put in place, which I think, we have U-Fly in place at the elementary level. We piloted U-Fly. So I would say, based on looking at this data, we have seen some gains in ELA. We're still struggling in math and science. This is just last year, 38% met or exceeded, 24% met or exceeded. This is all students, 3rd through 11th grade who are tested on the CAST. And this is a breakdown. You can see we're kind of in the same ballpark each of the last 3 years, 21, 22, and 23, 24. Socioeconomically disadvantaged. These are students who are on free and reduced lunch. We're at about 75% in our district on free and reduced lunch. And so these are just the trends the last 3 years with math, ELA, and science. If you look at those trends, pretty similar across the board. With ELA, you can see being the strongest overall. And ELA is the strongest overall really in any demographic we have, whether you're special education or an English learner, ELA is typically the one they're doing better at. Special education, and this isn't new, but our kids are struggling with special education. And if you look at that percent, that's 10%. So you have 10% met or exceeded. And so we have seen some nominal gains in ELA, but math is still math and science are still and this is all students right here. These is representative 3rd through 11th graders. We did break it down by grade level, grade span, and you can see this is ELA special education, 3rd through 8th grade, last year's scores. Just representative by grade span, and as you can see, as they get to 6th and 7th grade, it gets a little more challenging for them.
So the not met, if you go back one slide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This one?
Yeah, the not met seems to be pretty stable in elementary, 3rd through 8th. It kind of goes up in 7th. But then the not met, the orange color, is significantly lower in 11th grade. Do you know, is there any?
And it's higher with standard exceeded. We see that dip sometimes because of the transition to the high school. There's still students in special education are still learning strategies classes, and they do have some more co-teaching at that levels in the ELA and math, and so that can be a contributing factor, maybe the co-teaching by the pushing model. And it's just math. In math, it's interesting as it lowers in ELA, but if you get to math, it's even more challenging as they get to the upper grades. And this is because, we do have a tiered math requirement, and these students in special education, they're not, most are not exceeding IM1, and just getting past IM1 is a big, significant challenge. So they're not getting really to IM2. EL, these are English language learners. You can tell this is, once again, it's at 11%. Then you have about 7% and about 9% in terms of ELA. But their math and science is still struggling. So we did also a comparison with EL and non-EL. So students who speak a second language and students who don't, and you can see the significant difference in those two groups. On the left, you have the English language learners, ELL, and on the right, you have the not EL students. And the standard not met is the extreme extreme gap. But there's things we're doing with that because the most challenging part is we talk to teachers is we have a lot of students in most districts who have newcomers to the country and they don't speak English. And so just imagine being in that position, going to a class, trying to do biology and looking at that massive textbook with all those significant like vocabulary words, and being in college, those textbooks. So that is one of the challenges is the newcomers in our schools and trying to find ways to meet them where they're at. So we do have PD integrated and designated PD we've been doing. We have a lot of options for that, but that is something that's challenging. This is just the same comparison with math. So we still see that gap, but it is lower though if you think about it. If you look at not EL, which is ELL, it's actually lower in math in terms of standard not met. And then the next few slides, I'll just kind of go through these ones a little quickly, but this just showed, if you look at this one, this is our third grade students from last year. So we started off with kids coming, their first testing and CAS was third grade, 25% EL, 30% math, met or exceeded. And you can see the growth. So we have 11% growth, ELA, when they be in the fourth grade, then we have 34% in math. And then it's interesting as you look at it, we have 39% in fifth grade, 21% math. And you start seeing the math kind of decrease over the years. And you're in seventh grade, you're at 21% last year. Then you're at 20% eighth grade. Then you're at 14% was our juniors last year in high school. So if we go back, I just want to go back to this in 1 second. Third grade, they're at 25% met or exceeded. 36%. But we definitely see as they get to high school, and this isn't something that's like a new phenomenon, but there's a shift in high school when they get there. And there's a significant drop as they get to junior year. And there's various reasons for that. Like I said, a lot of kids aren't getting past IM1 at times. The CAS does test IM1, IM2, and parts of IM3 with geometry. But we do see a significant dip. On the other hand, in ELA, we see it the highest at junior year.
Are most juniors taking, let's say I'm just your typical 11th grade student. I take IM1, freshman year, IM2, sophomore year. That fulfills my graduation requirement, correct?
Yeah.
So I don't have to take IM3. I don't have to take a math course my junior year.
But if you want to, the kids who want to, if you want to go to a UC or a CSC,
well, yeah, but
do a third year.
1/4 of our kids want to go to a UC. So that's not even, most of our kids don't take it. So they don't test until the very end of their junior year, which means that for most of our kids, it's been a full year since they've really been actively involved in a math course.
Well, UC high school during math. Well, it really depends. I'd have to get you the numbers on that. But we do have kids who do take junior math. We do want kids to take a third year math.
Well, I know we want them to. That doesn't necessarily mean they do.
Now, without a graduation requirement of a 3 year of math, you're correct. They don't have to.
Right.
And especially
well, if they're not going to a UC or CSU, why would they?
Right.
I thought 3 years was the graduation.
It's only 2 years. They don't have to take it
2 years.
2 years of math, 3 years of science.
And then in high school, we have intro to IM1, IM2, IM3. Then you have your advanced courses.
Right. So if a kid comes in as a freshman and they really are a Shelley and they're in intro to IM1, their freshman year, and then they struggle through that, they get through it with a D-, and then they take IM1 their sophomore year, and they get through that with a D- because the teacher liked her, and then they don't take any more math, and then they test their junior year.
That's true.
The chances of them doing very well on a test for our dashboard is true.
No, that's a possibility. And our the key here is when we look at our LCAP, when we develop our LCAP, the state uses it as their main mechanism. It's not Tino's choice, it's the state. They look at your English, your ELA, and your math scores. That literally drives most of the LCAP. And now part of the accountability of the new LCAP is they're looking at programmatically, what changes are you making in your school district, in your schools to increase those scores? Like I said, with ELA, you can see we're making, I would say, really good gains in ELA. Like pre-COVID, we were the highest pre-COVID, and now we're making gains. So ELA, we're making really strong gains. But in terms of math, we're really not. So some of the work we're doing now is we're working on essential standards for math, kind of dusting off the essential standards, re-looking at them as a team, and having a kind of K-12 guaranteed vertical articulation with essential standards, which will align to our new framework. But I think that in itself will be one pretty big effort to have more alignment going vertically from K to 12.
So would you say that there's more kids taking math their junior year at YC or at RV?
RV.
There's more kids taking math their junior year at RV?
Well, they're on the block.
I know they're on the
They could
block.
also miss a,
But
And I don't have those numbers, but I would assume because they can take more classes, they can take 2 more classes that year, that you would have more kids taking math at RV. I can get you the numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Math teachers right now, but it's 90%.
90% what?
Of kids in the junior year at YCNRD are taking it.
So that's
from Tina,
90%.
that's from Trinity and Josh Roberts.
90%.
so that's not a reason for the low math scores then.
They say counselors also recommend us to take a 3rd year.
Well, I know they do.
Which is I'm gonna say at RB, I'm gonna say 3/4 of us are all taking additional math courses. So the one you could say the quarter, the kids that aren't taking it are kids that are trying to go to community college, and that's why I feel like the percentage is that way.
So let me ask you a question. Are you a junior or a senior?
Junior.
You're a junior. Are you taking math right now?
Yeah, I'm taking it next.
Will you be taking math next term?
The next senior year 2 years.
So you'll be taking math spring term this year?
Yes.
I'm just wondering
they
because
can miss a spring term.
They don't generally
math to
take
me
it
is one
back.
of those things, if you don't practice it daily,
They don't take it back.
you're gonna lose it.
Right.
No, that's a challenge too when you have that semester break or
Or
summer
block,
break.
yeah.
It is a challenge. You could take, let's say your freshman year, you could take IM1 fall, and then you could take IM2 spring. Ideally, you want to do it in the fall, but you could do the spring the next year, and you could have 3 semesters before you take math again. That's
a long time.
probably wouldn't, your counselor would probably put you in math that fall,
Right.
pretty much, but that could be a challenge with it, yeah.
Or they could blast through it their freshman year and be done. It's only 2-year requirement, so you could take IM1, IM2 and be done.
The students who are doing that are gonna continue to do IM3 and AP Calc. They're gonna keep pushing.
I think also a lot of our students take math at Yuba College. So it's only summer course.
Yeah.
So we don't really take math that much.
I think right now is we don't have the data in front of us to reinforce what's some of the comments. So I think
Yeah.
that that's something the board is interested in terms of how many kids are taking, 3 years of math or who are taking it. Because I do think it is rare that you would see a RV student taking fall term, spring term, fall term, spring term of math. You would see generally there's going to be a gap.
There'd be a gap because they have electives they wanna take, and they have singletons on master schedule and stuff like
But
that.
if that is of interest, that we'd like to see some data regarding math courses and who's taking what, we could collect that for you.
And remind me again when we're getting the new math standards.
So they have the standards are the same, it's just the framework. So right now, what we have to have the publishing companies, the textbook companies are submitting their proposals to the state, and they give you basically a recommendation list. And then what typically you do in a school district is you pick a pilot, you pilot probably 3 curriculums, and then you get a math committee together, teachers, and you pilot the curriculum, and then you decide after the pilot which one best meets the needs of our students and teachers.
It would be interesting to, I think it was Shelley that mentioned it, to see the data of the integrated math versus the
Traditional.
traditional, the algebra 2, trigonometry, geometry,
The challenge
calculus.
The challenge with that though, with doing it here is they changed the standards, so you'd be measuring against different standards. So before the California Common Core, they had the STAR tests,
Yeah,
but they had different math standards. Then they had the Common Core standards where they then started doing the Common Core standards. So you'd be comparing two different standards,
Apples to oranges.
and it wouldn't be the same comparison.
oh, so
Yeah.
math is not math.
Plus, the test
They're
itself,
all fruit, it's just.
the test itself is different. So like the STAR test was most multiple choice, right? You have scratch paper, you do the multiple choice. The CASP test is free response and it's performance task. So you go through, you do all the multiple choices, but then you have a performance task you have to do, which is a DOK 4 level, basically a rigorous like performance task you have to do. So they're basically different tests and different standards, so you really wouldn't get a comparable measure.
Yeah,
You're not measuring the skill, what you're basically measuring is percentage of success. That's all you could really gather from it is what percentage were meeting or exceeding the standards at that time.
Plus they took them on the computer now, and previously took them just on pen and paper. So there's nuanced differences in the testing mechanism.
yeah, but how would that translate? I mean, why would that be
Well, because the pen and paper test, you didn't do any performance task. It was multiple choice.
all Scantron?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I will keep going. We talked about that. So this is just an interesting note here. This is the composite scores. It breaks it down by ELA, reading and listening, and writing and research. So this is what they dive into when they actually look at your scores. Actually, so like with ELA, I just wanted to note we had 16.60% were above standard in reading and listening, all grades, and we're at 25% below standard, grade 11. So they started off grade 3 at 13%, and grade 11 they're at 22%. So there's growth there, both in reading and listening and writing and research. And then the math is where it gets a little more challenging. We do have the math talks about applying math concepts and procedures, and then explaining the reasoning and solving complex problems. But these are the domains how they assess their students on the CASP. So not only do you get this like data, but you also get it broken down by the specific content areas. And then you can actually nuance it way down more with our new system EduClimber. As we're navigating it and learning it, we're able to break it down by student now. So we had some questions, I think, previously about breaking it down by students, so we can break it down by student domain too now, which is pretty awesome. And just kind of this is our 3-year ELA, which is really awesome. If you look at some of our schools here, so we're making growth in ELA. If you look at Terra Buena, for example, they're at 61% right now, met or exceeded standard in ELA, which is awesome. Highest in the district anywhere. They're K-8 school. Similarly, Butte Vista is at 55%. King Avenue, if you look at King Avenue, they've steadily been making gains from 22% up to above 32% at King Avenue. Linecrest, Lincoln making, you've seen gains in ELA. There's some plateauing at some sites, but it's pretty promising with our ELA scores in K-8. I was pretty excited to see that. And then we broke it down by math, by site. And you see similar trends. So if you look at Terra Buena, you kind of have the same graphic there. They're about 43% met or exceeded at Terra Buena this year, but they've steadily been gaining. Butte Vista, you can see their trend, upward trend to 51%. Bridge, making some gains there. Linecrest, Park Avenue in math. So these are promising trends by school, which I think is awesome to celebrate. High school, I put YCA and Albert Powell up there as well. ELA, Yuba City High School has definitely made some growth with ELA. They're at 53%. River Valley dipped down a little below that last year. 3-year math. YC. So like I said, there's still a lot of growth areas, but there's still some really cool areas you can celebrate when you look at those numbers. Schools are working together, teachers are collaborating. Our student groups of special education, our Yale students, they're definitely still struggling, and we still got to continue to put to do PD, provide support for those students, and continue to move forward. And then this is a photo I had to put on here. This is at Terra Buena. They had their assembly for PBIS for the Platinum Award. And this photo, I was like, this is why we do it, right here. So thank you guys. Any questions?
Thank you.
That's a big, huge report. Thank you.
Yes, it was good.
Hannah was so excited to put together. I actually like this stuff.
I did too. No, you sent it out really late last night.
I was changing it.
I know.
I was like.
11:55. That's my daughter was doing her homework too.
At midnight?
11:53.
It's the best cast report. And thank you.
Okay, are there any comments from the public on items not on the agenda? No. Perfect, thank you, Ms. Nora. Consent agenda, any questions? If not, can I get a motion?
I have questions. I just have one question.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I was just dazzled by the cast report and now. Yes, okay, here it is. Okay, this is for D, for Assistant Superintendent Bentley. With regards to.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 40, so the IT surplus forms is 44 pages of spreadsheet, and a lot of it are Chromebooks that are not being disposed, they're surplus.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
Yes. So technology tends to have some residual value at the end. So as we've been replacing Chromebooks and actually you'll see video boards and some computers and laptops for the last couple of years, we've been collecting and storing a lot of this out at Central Gaither along with some other stuff as well. We're trying to clean all of that up right now. So the first task is to surplus the items, and we're working on a plan to either sell or so things that are operational, we're going to try to sell. Things that are not, we will, as we've brought to the board a few times, we'll ask for like recycling, funds from them. So it'll be one of those two methodologies.
I guess my question is, because we're, especially the Chromebooks, they're on that 5-year life cycle, right? So we do a 20% refresh rate.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, like, we're surplusing a ton of these.
Yes.
Why are we not keeping them? Because they're still operational for like replacements?
But so I don't have the specific details on that, but I will tell you that I know that they do absolutely keep some of the better ones for loaners, for replacements, for parts. So that, I don't have the details necessarily, but I do know that that they do that. A number of these, of course, Chromebooks have a life cycle as far as the operating systems and that kind of stuff. So
I've been to CG. I've been to CG and I've seen those computers. They look very old, much older than what the kids are using today. They are. There's like boxes. They do a great job though, like making sure it's all organized and pretty and safe.
I just have a question about some of the surplus. I mean, I know it's on the opposite coast from us, but with all the hurricanes and all the schools that have been completely devastated and they have nothing. Is it possible, is it feasible at all that some of this could be donated to areas where schools have been totally obliterated and they have nothing?
It is not the normal course. So, by board policy and in code, we're required to auction it off, but and receive some value for it. There is actually we did that exception for the charity for the furniture. It would have to come by board resolution. You'd have to identify a specific nonprofit to do that for, and the board have to unanimously vote for that.
It was just an idea that came to me thinking about.
Maybe with other educational agencies.
So we're working on a plan to initially offer to educate government agencies, and then after that to the public. So that's kind of the plan we're working on right now, and we're developing that right now.
Actually, good idea.
So if we can find an agency that's gonna help rebuild the schools, we can technically give it to them.
Yeah, possible. I mean, again, I'm not sure if they want them because again, they're at the end of life and, you know, but I don't know. So yeah, I'm not sure how to facilitate that, but we can.
I just hate to see things, when people have nothing and we have surplus.
Yeah.
Not to be able to help them out.
Any other question?
No, that was my only question. Thank you, Mr. Pitt.
Can we get a motion?
Make the motion to approve. Second. Yeah.
I have a motion by member Sucio, a second by member Lamb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Action item, first reading, for proposed revisions to board policies.
Thank you. So I bring forward for first read, the next set of policies. I do want to call attention to one correction I just found. So on item BP 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health conditions, it is option 2 that is being recommended, not option 1. So in your notes, you'll see that the option 1 was deleted, so it is actually option 2. So my apologies for that error. But again, this is just for first read, feedback. Let me know what feedback there might be or discussion for the full board.
Perfect. If there's any comments that you guys have at this time, you can present those to the superintendent or via email, and then secondly, hopefully those get corrected and brought back forward. Anything that jumps out to you guys? Okay, perfect. Moving on. B, second reading for proposed revision. And this will be in action.
Well, yes. So what I want to present is I included, well, in your board packet is the mobile communication device. I did, after thinking, and also conversing with some individuals on paragraph 3, and I think the conversation that happened at the last board meeting had to do with, in particular, smart watches. So as the red policy read, that mobile communication devices should be basically not visible during the school day. And the conversation came up about smartwatches because kids, many of them have smartwatches, and are we really going to be asking them to not have them visible? So my initial draft in the board packet was that I said cell phones must be turned off. But in further thinking through this, did it make more sense to, and I put in 4, and it's on your yellow sheet, that mobile communication devices must be turned off and placed out of sight during the school day, except for smartwatches. However, smartwatches are required to be used in accordance with the law, Student Technology Acceptance Use Agreement, EP 61634, and conditions cited within the policy. So it's very clear. I wanted to make it clear that yes, kids could have their smartwatches. However, they would have to be used in the proper way as defined by these multiple sources in our policies and law.
Makes sense.
Is it clear?
Yeah, it sounds good.
So with that one change, then I would be asking for approval, second read with those changes as outlined on the yellow copy.
The only feedback I have is not, it would not change the meaning or anything, would be just better headings, organization, again, because there are nuances that apply to 9th through 12th graders, and there are nuances that apply to middle schoolers, et cetera. If there's a way to make this a little bit more reader friendly, so they can look and say, okay, well, 9th through 12th grade exceptions, and so parents and community members, guardians can look and easily see, okay, well, here it is for this is everybody, and here are exceptions therein for the following grades. But again, it doesn't change the content. I'm just talking organization, which wouldn't be a voting thing.
When is this going to take into effect?
So right now, our current policy exists, and so it is actually being implemented and working. So we could, with that, if it's a request of the board for me to make it, not change the language, but to reorganize that, then I would suggest that I take the opportunity to make this, put it together in a format that meets the needs of the board, and that we would bring it back to the final read at the next board meeting.
So we're okay with that?
Okay, so then there's no action to be taken on this item.
I like the verbiage that you added, that's great.
Yeah, is it, right, thank you.
You got it.
Can we in the morning, brushing my teeth.
Approval of variable term waiver request.
Yes, so, Mr. Bogus not here. So, this is, it is a. Yeah, could you move on?
Okay, no worries.
Because my packet is now over to.
B, Proposition 28, Proposition 28, funding annual report, Mr. Bentley. Okay,
Oh, this would be,
just kidding.
So Proposition
Sorry.
28 is an apportionment we get now per year. It started in 23-24. We have funds 24-25, so it's not a grant. It was voted in, I think in 2022, and then in 23-24. So annually, we have to submit an annual report. And so this annual report, we didn't expend funds last year. We're working currently with our site principals and our music department. Prop 28 is for visual and performing arts. So the whole purpose of Prop 28 is to expand our programs. Into new programs, you can't supplant. And so currently each school site is allotted a apportionment every school year based on their unduplicated pupil count. So it's part of their actual budget. It's not a grant. So this actually doesn't go away, which is great because it's guaranteed funding. But one of the challenges is finding teachers who are art teachers, music teachers, dance teachers, digital art teachers. That's the biggest challenge, is finding those actual teachers. So this is just an annual report. We didn't expend funds last year. There is carryover for this year. All of our principals are working on their plans. We're working with Corey and the music teachers as well. 80%, they divide it by 80% and 20%. So 80% of the funding, they want you to use your certificate or classified staff. And that doesn't include vendors or contractors. The 20% of the funding is for materials, supplies, professional development, and any vendors you use. So this is basically the annual report from last year, but we do have carryover this year to use to fund our teachers and additional staffing and materials, supplies, PD, and if we hire any outside contractors.
Are we currently flying this position individually?
We're going to be actually flying them. We actually met today with the principals, and there's a lot of the principals have different site needs. So some want to have like an itinerant art teacher to come push in for art. So if some of our sites want that, we can hire an itinerant art teacher. So we met today. We developed a matrix of the site needs and the district needs, and we're going to be flying those positions when we can.
I'm just thinking outside the box. Is there like a CTE type pathway that can, or CTE teacher that could be itinerant that can do some of this art stuff? I don't know.
Like a current CTE teacher?
No, just, I don't know, I want.
So the credentialing piece depends on what level you want to do. Obviously, if you want to do it typically you want a single subject art credential.
Yeah.
To do art classes. So that's kind of what we talked about today, the nuances of that. Because today we talked about we want to hire art teachers and music teachers. That's kind of like the gist of what we want to hire. We're gonna look into having a waiver, because the challenge with most of the schools right now is they give you all this funding, and if there's no teacher to hire, you have this funding you have to use. So the waiver allows flexibility. So instead of saying 80-20, you can say 50-50. So it allows you flexibility to use that money more with like right now we had the Child Development Center. They're using their funding on art supplies and doing art stuff. King Avenue is using their money right now. So they're using the money now. It's just a big portion of it's going to be the staffing. And so that's why we want to fly the positions as soon as we can. See if we can get some staffing hiring.
And this would also allow for more prep time for our elementary school teachers as well.
If we went the direction of hiring more music teachers, if we could find them, it would continue to expand our music offerings. So yes.
Well, and I think that's kind of what Jasmine was talking about with a CTE track. If you've got a musician in the community who would be very qualified to teach music lessons, but is not necessarily gone through credentialing to get a single subject in art, would that be a CTE position? Is there a music teacher?
No, there's
that
a
not
lot, there's a
possible?
lot of nuances to that. So
Okay.
typically, it would depend on what your program of study is. So like, there are CTE programs that are music programs. Like, I can think of one at Wood Creek High School, they have something called commercial music. And it's a 3-course pathway, and that teacher specifically has a CT credential. He also has a music credential. But so there are those unicorns out there that you can do. And we can use the funding. Our priority is certificated and classified staffing of our own, right? Yuba-City Unified teachers and classified staff, that's priority. But you can, with the 20%, for example, use some outside, if you have outside like the dance studio, right? So let's say there's a dance studio in town. How could we work with the dance studio on creating some sort of, I don't know, MOU or something where we could have them help? It's nuanced. It's a challenge. That's a challenge. But we would prefer certificated teachers
Absolutely, I agree.
to be on.
Can I ask one last
Yeah.
question and I'm done, but. So when you think of elementary teachers, a lot of like the art and elective type classes are taught from the student's main teacher, right? Can this funding, like the 80%, because we can't find credentialed teachers in that single subject area, can we use that to subsidize some of, no? And the supplies can't even be used for their.
Oh, the supply is supporting our arts program, which is fine, but when you get into that type of, that's almost like a supplanting. And they don't allow that
Okay.
part. So I'm with you on that thought.
I mean, because
Trust me, I'm very good teacher too.
I know that the elementary teachers do like a phenomenal job with like all the different art stuff that they do. Because there isn't somebody that comes in and pulls those kids, so they are fulfilling that.
The unfortunate thing, the way the language reads, and this is where I think sometimes others who decide what we have to do don't recognize the shortage of teachers out there, especially when you have specialty areas. And so there is the word new. So there's the expectation is it is on top of what we're currently doing, which is unfortunate.
Okay. Sorry, question. The 20% that's like extra, that's not paying salaries. Can we use that to help fund, like how band and orchestra have like their trips, like they go to competitions, they do all these things?
We could look into the allowable uses. Yeah,
Cause I know there's like plenty students that like can't go on these trips with like everybody else, and it's like coming out of pocket. I mean, I went on those trips, everything came out of pocket, and it's like not everybody has the means to do that.
Yeah, so right now we currently have another arts instructional materials block grant. And we built into that grant actual funding for field trips for art and music. And so I know I don't think anybody, right now we're paying for all field trips. And they mentioned the Avid field trips, we do Avid field trips. So both the high schools and the middle schools can do Avid field trips, we fund that. So we can, yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
A motion by member Seofield, a second by member Lamb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. E, application for Discovery Community Day School.
So we currently, as you guys know, have students who get in trouble in middle school, and they are recommended for expulsions, and we have created a school for those students at Yuba-City Independence Academy. However, it is not an independent school. And so we have to apply for a CDS code to make it a community day school, because it doesn't fall in line with what an independence model is, because they're not at home working, they're actually in person. So we have to apply for a new CDS code to actually make this a school. So we seek approval from the board to create a CDS code for Discovery School.
Questions?
I know that we approve.
Second.
Oh, wow. Okay, motion by member Pretty, second by member 4. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. 15, board reports, information, discussion.
Oh, do we have to go back?
Just kidding, sorry. Yeah, it was in my packet. Yes, so We need to submit a variable term waiver for for 4 specific CTE teachers, because the way our CTE teachers are credentialed, they have different credentialing. They often don't have the English learner authorization. So this is recognizing that currently these 4 teachers do not have that qualification under the English learner authorization. We'll be seeking a waiver. They will be moving towards getting that authorization. And then the last one is for a waiver for a very specific designated area, and that is for a teacher at Albert Powell to be able to teach driver's ed. Because we don't currently have
Driver's
anyone there.
training.
Yes, so that would be the acknowledgement that we have these 5 teachers that we need to submit for a variable term waiver. These would be retro back to August 1st of 2024, moving forward.
Quick question, how the EL certification, how long do those employees have to obtain it?
That I would need to get back to. I'm not positive, but generally they've generally taken about 2 years.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Any motion?
I make a motion, we approve that changes.
Okay, on a motion by member Pretty, a second by member For, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, 15, board reports, information discussion, any meetings from? Perfect. Okay, communications, any written communications from the public? Nope. Perfect. Employee reps, Athena.
Good evening, board members, staff, students, and anybody in the audience. I'm Dina Lukens, president of the Yuba City Teachers Association. I would like to highlight a few items this evening. First item is one that came up earlier, and that is with regards to newcomers. I was at April Lane today, and the topic of newcomers came up, and a large number of students coming to us who don't speak English. One of them just arrived within the last couple of days, and our students, teachers talk about the challenges of a student in their 5th grade class who doesn't speak any English, and the challenges that adds in addressing the needs of our students. And I will tell you, our teachers are out there working really hard to address a diversity of needs of students who have spoken English for a lot longer. So there's so many challenges out there. The concerns I heard was it would be helpful to have more supports for our students who are newcomers with some intensive language intervention. So I hope that over time, we will continue to explore more options to support those students in developing their language skills quickly so that they can better integrate into their classrooms. Another item that ought to get some of our focus as we move forward to develop some intensive intervention is behavioral interventions. Not sure why, but in the last 2 or 3 years, we have students coming into our TK, K, and 1st grade classrooms that don't have the same studenting skills that we might have observed in the past. I've been in some of those classrooms to observe some of these high-intensity behaviors. We've got 30-year veterans out there who are amazing teachers in those primary grades, going in tears at the end of the day because of the challenges of these high-intensity behaviors. So again, we need to look at, do we have some significant intensive intervention for these students so that we can, as quickly as possible, bring them into studenting skills. I can tell you from experience that when those behaviors are in the classroom, it has an impact on all the other students with regards to what appears to be acceptable behavior when that behavior is allowed to continue. And I
Can I ask
continue.
you a question? Can you give us an example of some of these behaviors that you're talking about?
Oh, the student that runs around the classroom while group instruction's going on, bopping students on the head, those students who are pinch other students and leave a mark, the students who bite a teacher. It's high intensity stuff that we didn't deal with in the past, and we're asked to just try one more time, but they're significant. The student who is yelling the entire time classroom instruction is going on and rolling around on the carpet up front. It's a whole new world, and our teachers are, it's exhausting. So I just am asking that we really look at, are there ways we can engage in some intensive behavioral interventions to allow these students to more quickly learn this is what it looks like to be a student in our kindergarten classroom. I don't know if it's a function of, what happened to these students when they were 2 years old and in the midst of COVID. I don't know what it is, and it's not really important what caused it. What's important is they're here in our rooms, and we've got to figure out how to help them. With regards to Prop 28, we would strongly encourage the district to work diligently to hire BAPA teachers, visual arts and performing arts teachers. We need to go out there looking for them early and often. We need to increase the arts in our elementary classes. We have been asking the district for a number of years prior to Prop 28 dropping the money in our laps to fund classroom music, for example, in grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We currently fund it in grades 1, 2, and 3. Music teachers came to this board about 5 years ago to tell you about all the research that shows that music instruction helps developing brains, that there's significant research with regards to those. So we hope that we will move forward to be able to offer the visual and performing arts to our students in a more robust manner, and do believe that hiring credentialed teachers is the best way to deliver that instruction. There are options that allow us to hire those teachers with emergency credentials and internships, and support teachers who have multiple subject credentials to earn art credentials and music credentials by taking the CSET and then a methodology class. So we would encourage the district to continue to look for hiring those folks. We know that it's a tight job market, especially when the state passed Prop 28 and said hire more VAPA teachers, and then didn't recognize the reality of, you gotta make sure you got enough teachers out there. And finally, I do appreciate Board Member Pretty recognizing Katie Woolman. I told you about Katie Woolman at a previous board meeting. Katie Woolman is one of our nationally board certified teachers, and that process is a highly rigorous one. Katie is an exemplary employee. And I want to just close by mentioning your approval today of the Community Day School for the Discovery Program. The district embarked on some exciting stuff in this Discovery Program. And I think that's where our hope is, to address the needs of our TK-1, not in necessarily the Discovery Program, because it's more of a 6-12 option, but the Be Good People program is one of the ideas that came out of that. The Discovery Program is being offered to our expelled youth, and I would hope eventually to our students before they get to the point of expulsion. Before you ever hear about them, we engage in interventions like the Discovery Program to help those students learn those studenting skills and the self-regulation and so many other skills. I will tell you, Heather B took that task on, and I talk to her most days, and it is a challenging task because those students come to school with a great deal of trauma, and she gets to hear about that. And if you have empathy, that's draining. But she believes in them, and she believes in that what they can become, and supports them on a daily basis. So I appreciate what the district has done to invest in the Discovery Program. She works with Jen Coates, one of our certificated social workers who came over from the classified world and got her PPS credential. And the two of them make an amazing team to really try and address the needs of our students. Because ultimately our goal is, we want kids in school. We don't want to expel them. We don't want to suspend them. We know that we can offer services that help them become better people and better citizens. So I thank the district for their support on the Discovery Program. It is also being implemented as an elective at Gray Avenue. This could be the beginning of a wonderful intervention for our students to become better people. So thank you.
Thank you. Comments from board members?
I just have a couple. Greg and I went to, 4 schools? No, 3 schools. I stopped in at YCA, yes. We went to YCIA and Tierra Buena
Yes.
and AK. And got to look around and, it was really cool. At AK, we got to be part of their
Walk of Fame.
Walk of Fame. Oh my goodness, Rocco just does.
Amazing job.
Oh my gosh. And, Tierra Buena, it's just the kids there and the principal there, it's just the whole crew there is just really, truly, I mean, they came here and said, we're a community, don't break us up. And when we were on that campus, I really got that feeling. It's just amazing. Great. And then at YCIA, we got to talk to Kevin Peterson, the principal, and then we actually went into the classroom, saw Heather working with the kids and saw the kids, and it's just a great program. So it was wonderful to go on these site visits, and I look forward to doing more.
So I also, in addition, last week I toured Butte Vista, and one of the other things, Rocco, I have to give a shout out to Rocco. He's definitely created a pretty awesome culture there. He has a lot of respect from his staff and students, and you can feel it with the aura he puts on. So he's got a good culture going on. I love all his artwork he's done. Same thing with Butte Vista, their murals they've done. And I know I drive by Park Avenue, so I don't know if they've done any more than that outside, but the murals and the overall school colors, getting just the kids bought into the program is pretty sweet. So, but talking about some of the students, the younger kids, I feel like we've heard this common thread about kids that have experienced COVID. And there's teachers can tell there's something a little bit different about some of these students. So I don't know how we address it, but it sounds like that's a pretty common theme these days of that some of these students are different than what they've been past. So I guess we shall see. That's it.
Any other comments?
So I just want to thank you all for acknowledging the hard work that's going on at our school sites and the cultures that are being created. I know you can tell each of the schools has a different culture, but that they're warm and inviting, and that our administrators and our teachers and classified staff are working hard to create a welcoming environment. And so to that end, also just in terms of the behaviorally challenged students, we just had a meeting, Tino and the directors, as a starting point, because I am hearing something. I'm visiting campuses. I'm actually seeing some of the students that they're referring to. So we are regrouping. We are thinking outside the box, just as we did with the Discovery program, in terms of how to serve some of these students who are struggling to learn how to be students. They don't quite know what that means, and for whatever reason, choose to not always stay in their seats and choose to communicate in ways that we don't necessarily always think are appropriate. So we are working on that, and we'll be having conversations with our staff regarding what we need to do.
Awesome. Next board meeting is November 12th at 7, or open session at 7. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. On a motion by member Suesfield and second by member Ford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Yuba-Sutter done alive. It's the truth that comes through.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Seth Peer with Nickell Tax and Financial Planning, and I'm your financial ally. With years of expertise, we at Nickell Tax go the extra mile to maximize your refund and get the largest allowed by law. With Seth Peer and family at Nickell Tax, it's not just about the numbers, it's about personalized service that fits your unique financial goals. That's why we fight for our clients here at Nickell Tax and Financial Planning, where Seth Peer and family are going to
save you more than just nickels.
Nickell tax.com.
Thinking good vibes one day at a time. At Edible Memories, life is sublime. In every bite, you'll find a dream. Join us now, let your heart beat. Step inside, sharing the fun. Edible Memories Bakery, where happiness runs.
Edible Memories Bakery, 321 3rd Street, Marysville. EdibleMemoriesBakery.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties.